Welcome to Awesome Movie Year, the podcast where we take a look back at an awesome year for movies, which is every year. I'm Josh Bell, film critic and writer, and I'm joined by my co-host.
I'm Jason Harris, filmmaker, comedian, and I am currently enjoying a nice holiday in a random rich person's country manor.
You joke, but Jason spent years living in a random rich person's home, so...
Yeah, I got to find more country manors to spend time at. Listeners, if you have a country manor, hire me as an artist in residence. All you have to do is let me stay there for free and feed me and take care of me, and I'll create art for you.
Jason is the Adam Belinsky of Las Vegas, I think, really, is what's going on here.
Well, we both hate Nazis, so I'm into that. So
Right. So many things in common. So in this season of Awesome Movie Year, we are talking about the films of 1946, and we're here at my pick, which is Ernst Lubitsch's comedy Cluny Brown, starring Jennifer Jones as the title character and Charles Boyer as Adam Belinsky, the Czech intellectual and expert freeloader, really quite good at it, and both of whom end up at this country manor in what I think at least is a delightful satire of upper-class British manners with the Lubitsch touch, as they say.
Did you hear how he insulted me without insulting me? He's like, he's very good freeloader, that Belinsky, who he just compared me to and said I was the Belinsky of Las Vegas. So I haven't been America's house guest in years anymore, Josh.
That is true. See, I didn't compare you to Kato Kalin. I compared you to Adam Belinsky, who is a writer, an intellectual, a fighter against fascism, a suave lover of women.
Hello, Cluny Brown.
That's pretty good. I think that's
he says it so many times. I've just been walking around like all week, just like, hello, Cluny Brown. Hello, Cluny Brown. Hello, Cluny Brown.
They do love saying her full name here. I think he's not the only one. I think does her Uncle Arn also, when he gets mad at her, say that, use her full name?
Man, Uncle Arn. Did we miss something, Josh, by not having team up with the uncle and Whitnell and I? Come on, that is a movie ready to happen right there.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we don't see. Is there an aunt with Uncle Arn? Maybe he's lonely and he needs the gay uncle from Whitnell and I.
All right,
he is liberal, as Cluny points out.
They're plumbers, so maybe they can unclog each other's pipes.
Absolutely. As Cabin Boy says, the pipes are clean afterwards. Right?
You want to buy a monkey?
So Cluny Brown was sadly the final film that Ernst Lubitsch completed. He worked for just a brief period on one more film in 1947 before he died of a heart attack at a relatively young age. So this is kind of the end of his career, but I feel like this is going out on a high note. It really captures a lot of what makes Lubitsch films great, this witty repartee and the kind of screwball plotting where all of these ridiculous things happen and then they come together in this very clever and satisfying way. You have to give credit. It is based on a novel by Marjorie Sharp, which was a very popular novel from 1944. So a pretty recent book at the time that people were curious to see adapted. Samuel Hoffenstein and Elizabeth Reinhardt are credited with the screenplay, although I believe Lubitsch had quite a hand in shaping it once he took over as director.
I would think so. I mean, it definitely feels, as you said, like it has that Lubitsch touch. When leaving Ernst Lubitsch's funeral, William Wyler said, "No more Lubitsch." Billy Wilder responded, "Worse than that, no more Lubitsch pictures." So well respected in the pantheon of historic directors.
Yeah, I mean, and a guy who had an extremely long career, even though he died young, he had a 30-year career as a filmmaker. And I'm not sure if this actually might be the first or one of the first Lubitsch movies that I saw and loved, but I've thoroughly enjoyed a lot of his films. And I know, Jason, you caught up on a few this week before we did this episode.
Just a delight. Just an absolute delight. Honestly, I watched Trouble in Paradise from 1932. I can't see how that doesn't end up on my first time watches list at the end of the year. I found it on OK-Ru, or the Russians giving us film history when the Americans can't, right? But
you can find it on DVD or Blu-ray as well.
It's another one of those kind of like upper crust society, two con men trying to swindle their way in and con people, and like it all has to coalesce in Act 3. And I was just amazed. I think it might be my favorite screwball comedy of that era, like ever. And then Josh, you and I both watched To Be or Not to Be again, which was good to watch that and this back to back because they are both taking down the Nazis in different ways.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, To Be or Not to Be is much more specifically focused on the wartime period and thwarting Nazis, whereas this has this breezy attitude of Adam Belinsky is a dissident from Czechoslovakia at the time and is being targeted by the Nazis, but he seems very chill about it. And
well, he's Charles Boyer, man.
Right. But still, Nazis are dangerous. And of course, the satire on this upper crust is that they don't really pay attention to or understand what's going on with the Nazis and the threat that they pose. And, the lord of the manor is like, oh, that Hitler chap, I think he wrote a book about camping or whatever.
Well, two other movies we've covered both cover similar ground. Obviously, Renoir's The Rules of the Game, and De Sica's movie from 1971 that we just did recently.
Oh, right, The Garden of the Finzi Continis.
Yeah, so clearly there was this whole type of attitude of upper class people, wherever they were, that they were insulated from the Nazis and from warfare in general.
Yeah, I mean, and that's not surprising. I think rich people continue to have the attitude that, things like this are...
Yeah, just send the poors to do it. Right? Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And although when their son, when Peter Lawford's character says he's going to join the Royal Air Force, they do support that decision. Although I think he doesn't actually follow through with it.
I don't know if we ever see that actually, but that is... Lord Carmel's son who owns the manor, and he says, Carmel has never thwarted his duty or avoided his duty to the Royal Air Force, right? Or something along those lines.
Right, right. And one can imagine that perhaps Lord Carmel in his younger days fought in wars of colonialism, to subjugate other peoples, and that was his duty to the crown.
I mean, honestly, Lord Carmel's coming around to Belinsky is one of the wonderful subplots of this movie, just seeing how he warms to him over time and how upset he is when Belinsky, you're going to write, right, Belinsky? And everything. Good stuff all the way through.
Yeah, Belinsky is so charming, that he wins over everyone, even though he's sort of getting all these favors from them. And it's lovely.
I was actually thinking about Charles Boyer, the actor, on the amount of charm he has, because we've covered him in Love Affair and now this, right?
And he was also in The Earrings of Madame de, which we talked about.
So he's playing a romantic leading man, kind of another romantic leading man with issues in here. And he's got this heavy French accent from, his upbringing, obviously. And I mean, it's really hard if you think about it. How many leading men right now have foreign accents in American movies?
Yeah, no, that is true. I mean, if we get British or Australian or, actors who are native English speakers, they're generally hiding their accents. They're doing American accents. And I don't know, it is fairly rare still, I think, to have actors like that who have those heavy accents and can become big American movie stars. I mean, I think of like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but he was never a romantic lead, and that's decades since.
I had Antonio Banderas and Javier Bardem as my list, yeah. But the last French person I could think of is our man Gerard Depardieu. Oh, no!
Yeah, and his career as an American leading man didn't last very long. Mm-hmm. But
you will leave my father the hero out of this, Josh.
Right. You're right about Antonio Banderas and Javier Bardem, though, and I think there's an element of those accents being part of the romantic charm, right? I mean, I think both of those actors definitely play that up. Or we have Penelope Cruz now. I just watched The Invite last night, and she's certainly a romantic lead, in American films. So that's
Well,
possible too.
yeah, I mean, now all three of those actors, I mean, have quote unquote aged out of that. Although Penelope, I'm guessing she stole that whole movie. She looked great in it, and like she's a great actor. But Boyer's accent is so thick. And again, we're talking about the 30s, not the 2020s and the 40s, right? So, for America to embrace him as they did, he is absolutely just such a charmer. So I think that's the perfect word for him, charming.
Yeah, he is. And he embodies Belinsky very well because you need to see that charm. You don't want to go through this movie thinking, oh, Belinsky is a freeloader or Belinsky is taking advantage of these people. You want to be just as charmed by him as the characters are. And Boyer makes that happen.
I agree. I was very charmed by Belinsky. He could stay at my house if he wants.
That's so nice of you. So I couldn't get a budget figure on this. It did gross $1 million at the box office, which is not bad. And apparently, I was trying to find more info about this, but I couldn't find other than sort of vague references. But apparently in the UK, it was not well received. And the British did not appreciate this satire of their manners. And it closed in UK theaters in just 1 week. And one of the actors who appeared in this film, it was C. Aubrey Smith, who plays the general toward the beginning of the movie that Cluny Brown befriends on the train, who has a large dog, wrote a letter of apology for appearing in the movie. That's how offended the British were.
Talk about manners. But again, going back to the rules of the game, same thing. It was not a hit when it first came out in France. And again, who had money to go see movies in the 30s in France, right? It was the upper crust. So shockingly, these people often don't have good senses of humor about themselves.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because the rules of the game came out in 1939, which was, at the beginning of the war period. But here it's 1946. The war is over. I don't think anyone in the UK is now thinking, oh, the Nazis weren't a threat or something like that. Everyone understands the implications of what they're talking about here. So, and the satire, like, I love this movie, but the satire is fairly gentle. I mean, these people are clueless, but they're all pretty likable ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, when you said that it was taken so badly in England, I didn't even think about the reaction in the movies to the Nazis. I thought it was the spoofing of or the harpooning of the class structure and the rules of the game of those classes.
Yeah, and you're probably right. I mean, I think that is a large part of it. But again, I feel like it's so gentle, but I guess there is a long tradition, even up to today, of not that there aren't satires of this being made in the UK, but there's also a very long tradition of sort of celebrating this. When this movie came out on Blu-ray a couple years ago, or more than a couple years ago, it was at the same time as the first Downton Abbey movie, and I wrote a piece kind of comparing those two and how that movie is all about everyone knows their place and it's great. They're all happy about knowing their place, and this is the opposite of in what we see in this film.
Man, see, you got to hire this guy. He's coming up with great articles like that. He can't eat box macaroni every night. Hire him to write some articles. Buy him a steak.
The thing about me, though, is that I can eat box macaroni every night and enjoy it.
We got to get him some protein, guys.
Yeah, but do hire me. Thank you, Jason, for that plug. So critics in the U.S. were generally pretty positive about this film. James Agee in The Nation said, Cluny Brown is a comedy about English snobism on 3 levels: county family, backstairs, and lower middle class. There are also a couple of patrician liberals, fatuously melodramatic in their eagerness to protect an anti-fascist refugee from assassination. I would think better of the pasting of this kind of liberal, richly deserved as it is, if it had been done at a less safe time. One main difficulty is that comedies about snobism seem, as a rule, to depend on stimulating and playing up to, rather than shriveling, the worst kinds of snobism in the audience. In spite of this, Ernst Lubitsch's direction, always at its best so shrewd about protocol, makes the film more amusing than there were any other reason to expect. And Richard Haydn's performance as a prissily bullying, mother-bound druggist is very nice caricature.
Yeah, that's a wild big swing he took there that paid off, but that could have easily tanked the whole second half of the movie, right?
Yeah, he's very funny as the pharmacist that Cluny decides that she's going to become engaged to, who is clearly very wrong for her. But she kind of attaches herself to.
So what didn't work for me in this review was this idea of like, oh, if you had taken on liberals at a different time, I would have found it more effective. Like stupid Margaret Sharp only writing this book in 1944 and then Lubitsch adapting it 2 years later. Why didn't you wait until it came back in style to lampoon liberals? Like, it's just, this is when they made the art. It was a good piece of art. They didn't call them libtards. It's better.
I mean, I think what he's saying, not that he's like anti-liberal in the sense that he's conservative, but that he is, the specific sort of hypocritical liberal that we see here who, again, Peter Lawford's character who says, I'm going to do something about the war. I'm going to write a letter to the Times, people who just are pompous about that, but don't actually take any real action.
Okay. I'm going to push back on that because Lawford's character is I would say, if not a college student, in his early 20s, right?
Right.
So I don't think it's liberal versus conservative. I think that's young idealism, however you look at that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just the idea, though, that he is making a show of supporting, writing a letter to the Times or giving Belinsky 20 pounds or whatever, but isn't actually active in any sort of meaningful way against the rise of the Nazis.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that's a big ask,
Right. I mean, and ultimately we do see, again, he says at least that he's going to join the RAF, although I feel like that's not exactly what happens. But, and this is why I'm saying that like the idea that the English were so offended by this, that I think even if they are making fun of that guy in a way, it's also very gentle. And we see that he has good intentions and that he does what he can in the way that he thinks that he can.
You know who liked Peter Lawford is Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, for a little while at least.
Hey,
but,
baby.
Yes, indeed. So, I mean, the other thing that AG is saying here, I think, is what he's saying is that, the idea that this is a satire of the snobbery of the English aristocratic class, in that if it could seem condescending, and that it allows the audiences to be snobs of like, oh, I'm better than those people. I know what's going on for real. But I think that's a sort of disingenuous criticism.
You're better than them, Josh.
I'm not.
Nah, you stink.
Thank you, Jason. So, A.H. Weiler in the New York Times said, "Let it be noted at the outset that Ernst Lubitsch has come up with a delectable and sprightly lampoon in Cluny Brown. And let it be known also that from this vantage point, the offering is among the year's most delightful film comedies. For from this adaptation of Marjorie Sharp's best-selling novel, Mr. Lubitsch has produced and directed his most gaily irreverent escapade since Ninotchka of fond memory. As presented here, Cluny Brown's partial biography is no starkly factual file, but is a tongue-in-cheek, double entendre tale of an ebullient lass whose affections are divided equally between plumbing crises and affairs of the heart. And Cluny, as well as the fans that she is likely to have, can be grateful to Mr. Lubitsch and 20th Century Fox for having put the crises and the affairs together so charmingly."
Speaking of gaily, Josh, were you digging in? Were you hoping for some gay love there?
There really isn't any here, I don't think.
I mean, come on. If Belinsky said to Peter Lawford, "You know what would really help me fight the Nazis?"
That's true.
That ass.
Yes.
I think he'd give it up to him. So,
you are correct. Yes. Yeah. Otherwise, no. I mean, Belinsky seems very aggressively hetero in this movie, and not in a bad way.
Cluny Brown might have some lesbianic tendencies as well, I would say.
You think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, she's looking for security. So if she can't find a man to give it to her, I think she'd go down the other way.
She likes all sorts of plumbing. That is true.
Yeah, plumbers. If you're a lady plumber, you're probably a lesbian, right, Josh?
Well, that would be the stereotype, I would think. So it definitely is They get a lot of mileage about the idea that like a lady plumber, what? But
I mean, it's so effectively played in the kind of determining moments of Act 3, though. Like it really comes into usage in a really great way.
yeah, no, I mean, I love it. I love the idea that not only is it that she has this genuine passion for plumbing, but the movie doesn't like try to diminish that or shame it. It's the opposite. Like her whole arc is about finding someone who celebrates her for her love of plumbing and just for who she is as a genuine person.
Yes. And we celebrate that too.
Yeah, of course.
She fixed the plumbing and certain people just didn't respect that.
They didn't, and that's not okay. So finally, Variety said, apart from its whammo entertainment and box office aspects, Cluny Brown can be recorded as glamorizing the first of a clan, a lady plumber.
What?
And a looker, no less.
Ooh.
The kind for whom stopped up pipes are a pleasure. Cluny is in the best Lubitsch tradition of subtle, punchy comedy, and his two stars make the most of it. It is a satire on British manners with bite and relish. The insipidity of a specific family is the mirror through which is reflected Marjorie Sharp's novel of British pre-war aristocracy and the middle class. None of it is treated seriously, of course.
Of course.
And I think that's the thing. It's like, how are people offended by this movie? It's so funny and light and delightful, as we keep saying.
People get offended by everything. You know that.
That is true. That is true.
In fact, I have a quote from a film reviewer who was offended by this film, Josh. Noted British film reviewer Dame Margaret Thicklebush said, I say, I never.
Man, does she know Vincenzo Casaretti?
I'm sure they've been to some festivals together, Dame Margaret Thicklebush and Vincenzo Casaretti. So,
That's good. Jason's going to have a whole cast of fictional foreign film critics eventually.
Wait till we get to Nigerian Bollywood. It's going to really go in a different direction.
I think those are two separate countries.
No. Well, no. There's a Nigerian version of Bollywood is what I'm telling you.
Yeah. Not Nollywood or whatever.
Yeah,
Bollywood
that's what I meant.
Specifically the Indian film.
I said Nigerian Bollywood, not Indian Bollywood. I know what Bollywood is, dude. Let's just stick to Cluny Brown.
All right. Well,
although Cluny Brown might make a good Bollywood remake because little dancing.
Yeah, this is a kind
singing.
Of movie that could definitely have some musical numbers. And Lubitsch did direct musicals earlier in his career, so you never know. But no musical numbers here. So I first saw this film at the TCM Film Festival, and I think probably didn't know much about it other than that it was a Lubitsch film and that had been, kind of out of circulation, I think, at the time. This was before the Blu-ray release that I wrote about. And it just blew me away with how entertaining and clever and well acted it was. And I've returned to it when I wrote that article and watching it again now, and I just loved it. So, Jason, I know you hadn't seen this, but your journey through Lubitsch was rewarding for you, it seems like.
It reminded me of Preston Sturges, that same type of humor and that same type of just kind of real fast, real light, but with messages underneath. And yeah, I mean, again, like this is a major figure who obviously I knew about, who I wasn't that accustomed to. So watching these three films were lovely. These are great movies. This is an absolute legend. And a lot of, I told a story on Dave's podcast last week, Josh. If you don't mind, I'd like to tell it again. Do you mind, Josh?
I don't mind. No one listens to Dave's podcast.
That's right. That's true. Yeah. Especially when I'm on.
Said what I was going to say.
Except your sister, Brandy. Shout out, Brandy. She loves the trailer episodes.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was on the phone with my managers last week, and they're like, hey, you got to focus on like action stuff because nobody knows what to do with comedy right now. So I immediately went and watched 3 comedy trailers of movies that are coming out in July, including one by a filmmaker we all really like, and some with major stars. And then it just was like, it's not that nobody knows what to do with comedy. It's that we forgot or just seem to ignore what's funny. The baseline for comedy right now is so mid and mediocre, both in stand-up and in film, that like, it's just insane. So when I'm watching these, I'm like, man, just go back and watch this stuff. Go back and watch Lubitsch. Go back and watch Preston Sturges. Go back and watch, the Cary Grants and the Jimmy Stewarts, all the stuff we've talked about. Like the blueprint's still there. You can still be a rifleman and, rattle off really funny stuff. But I don't know what's going on with the world of comedy right now. It's just really a referendum on how great the stuff that we've been watching is.
Yeah, it is great. And I don't know who the modern Lubitsch is, but I mean, I think people have this idea that, comedy doesn't age as well or whatever. But I mean, I personally, and I'd seen this movie multiple times, I laughed throughout watching this movie. I think this movie is very funny in addition to, as a well-crafted piece of cinema.
Yeah, I can see you laugh. This is your type of little laughter. I laughed more at Trouble in Paradise, but that's not a knock on this movie at all. I just think he's, like we said, the Lubitsch touch, the charm, the kind of rapid fire pace of it, the, screwball ideas and how everything has to wrap up for everybody all together. Yeah, what's not to like?
Yeah. So, Dave, had you seen this or any Lubitsch films?
I had not. I, of course, had heard of Lubitsch, but I haven't seen any of his movies, and I'd like to see more after this. I really liked it.
Oh, good. Well, I hope you fit that into your busy schedule.
It's going to happen.
Yep. Yeah. All right. So, anything else you want to say about the background of this movie, Jason?
Josh, did I tell you about Dame Margaret Thackelbush?
I thought it was Thicklebush.
Oh, I misread what I said.
Or Thistlebush? No.
I think it's, we'll listen back because I didn't note it down.
Make sure to clarify that.
Thicklebush. I think we'll go with Thicklebush. Scott Eyman, Josh, who I think was Lubitsch's biographer of the Lubitsch touch. This is how he described it. With few exceptions, Lubitsch's movies take place neither in Europe nor America, but Lubitsch land, a place of metaphor, benign grace, rueful wisdom. What came to preoccupy this anomalous artist was the comedy of manners and the society in which it transpired, a world of delicate sang-froid. I don't know what that word means, Josh. You'll have to explain that one to me.
It's a French sang-froid means like sort of, it's like a detachment, like being cold-blooded.
I didn't even pronounce it right, guys. So, a world of delicate sang-froid, where a breach of sexual or social propriety and the appropriate response are ritualized, but in unexpected ways, where the basest things are discussed in elegant whispers of the rapier, never the broadsword. To the unsophisticated eye, Lubitsch's work can appear dated simply because his characters belong to a world of formal sexual protocol, but his approach to film, to comedy, and to life was not so much ahead of its time as it was singular and totally out of any time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is largely true, although the idea that they don't take place in a particular real world, we just talked about how both this movie and To Be or Not to Be engage directly with the rise of the Nazis and the real world, the war and all of that. And they do it in a Lubitsch way, but I mean, I think they have real world relevance because of that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're looking at like the slants on it, right? I mean, I don't think Michel Gondry is a one-to-one comparison, but his movies take place in a Gondry land that's somewhat based on reality, but just twisted a little, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a heightened sense of reality in these movies, the way that the comedy plays. That's true. But I just, I don't want to feel like assert that they're detached entirely from real world concerns. I think that's part of what makes them good, is that you can see how they're commenting via comedy on things that people really care about.
I care about it too, Josh.
Thank you. So we'll come back and talk some more general thoughts on Cluny Brown. Welcome back to Awesome Movie Year. In this episode of our season on the films of 1946, we're talking about my pick, Cluny Brown, and I will say I'm very pleased that both of you enjoyed it. I know, Jason, that I've picked a lot of movies that seem to not be to your taste, so I'm glad that we agree on this one.
Well, Josh, that's not really your fault. I'm such a rugged, gruff, alpha that it's hard for you to really kind of get inside my head, and that's not your fault either, because obviously I block off those emotions because I have to do things like warfare and planting my own crops because I live off the grid when I'm not hunting. So
Jason is wearing a tank top right now. I will give him that.
This is the Jersey dinner shirt. Do you know what that means, Josh?
I don't know if I want to.
You wear your normal shirt over the tank top, and then when you eat, because you're probably getting some red sauce, you take your shirt off and just let the red sauce, if it's going to stain the tank top, and then you put your regular shirt back on.
So what you're saying is you're essentially wearing a bib.
I mean, Jersey style, sure. So,
Okay, good stuff.
no, this was a great pick, Josh.
Thank you.
And you've made some nice picks. Come on, give yourself. That's I could think of at least two others that I've enjoyed. So
yeah, no, I know, and I stand by all those picks, but I just I it's nice to be able to share a movie with my friend and have him enjoy it as well. So
yes,
good.
Well, Josh, I expect next time I see you, I'll just walk up to you and say, "Hello, Cluny Brown." So
I look forward to that.
So, I mean, Boyer is the obvious, the lead, the charmer. When we covered Duel in the Sun, you said that you were going to show us a better Jennifer Jones performance, and you did, Josh. You really did.
Yeah.
So, the kind of settings are, of course, lovely. This, first we're in this apartment where a man is, throwing his cocktail party, and you already see the necessities of manners and social protocol. And when Cluny Brown shows up to do the plumbing, the shock is hard for people to wear off on. But you start to get that meet cute between Boyer and Jennifer Jones there. And then the stuff in the city's nice, and you get to this great country manor and all these other kind of wacky characters or either find their way in or come back from the cocktail party. And it's really so much less about the Nazis that we keep mentioning and so much more about the inner runnings of the interpersonal relationships between all these characters.
Yeah, and about the protocol in the house. Not only, I mean, it's a satire not only of the upper class who have this very particular notion of where is one's place, as Cluny is often told, but even down to the servant class. Part of what Cluny challenges when she comes in is that she doesn't behave like a servant, and the servants don't like that. The sort of heads of the staff here, they are very, very concerned, even maybe more so than the masters of the house, with behaving
keepers
properly.
Of the zoo.
Yeah. They, Cluny comes in, and because she comes in with that general, she is mistaken for someone of the upper classes, and Lady and Lord Carmel serve her tea and crumpets. And only when they realize actually she's our new maid who's shown up because she's been hired, do they change their attitude. But even then, I feel like another movie would have made it so that they get upset, or they're all like, "Oh, how could you? This is so this breaks protocol." They're just like, "Hey, it's cool. We made a mistake. Enjoy your tea, and you go. We'll see you later," or whatever. So
yeah, to jump in, two things about that is that's a nice kind of reversal of what you might expect of like that. How dare you, Maid Brown, so that was nice. The Carmels were really fun characters. I really did like them, as we mentioned. And Josh, man, there's that one great scene between like that, I guess that would she be like a house marm and the butler, the lead?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what their title. It's the equivalent of Mr. Carson and Mrs. Hughes from Downton Abbey. But the head butler, I guess, is his title. I'm not sure.
And they're just complimenting each other about their housework, but it's laden with sexual innuendo. Like, I'm like, these two be fucking when those Carmels go to sleep, right?
Yeah. And I think there's one point where Sirit, the butler, says about, when he first laid eyes on I forget her name, Mrs. whatever. And, they're called, as I learned from Downton Abbey, the head maid or whatever the title is always called Mrs., even though she's not married. So, they're not like, it's not like she's got a husband somewhere that Sirit is, cuckolding or something. Like she's.
They might be into that though.
You never know. But yeah, he talks about like when he first laid eyes on her and he knew she was, perfect at serving or whatever. And you can tell that that's what turns him on.
Yeah. Serving that ass.
So true.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing is that like we see throughout that everyone of all classes is very concerned with protocol. The servants are, you've got the Lord and Lady, and then you've got the pharmacist that we talked about, Richard Haydn's great performance, who's kind of the middle class, right? He's a merchant, so he's not, he's above the servants, but he's not landed gentry or whatever. He owns his own business and he does well enough. And he's also very concerned with the exact right kind of propriety for his position. And when he discovers Cluny getting all hot and bothered for plumbing, then it's over.
Yeah, even though she saved the whole party for him by plumbing, and everyone else at the party immediately leaves. Two great things about that performance, I thought. When you're talking about the class differences, when Belinsky confronts him in the park, and then they seem to make peace, and he starts to walk away, and Belinsky calls him back. He runs like just a scolded puppy back to him, like just showing the power dynamic between the two. And the mother, who never talks but coughs, which is a runner in Lubitsch movies. In Trouble in Paradise, there's a butler, and whenever he walks downstairs, he's coughing and everything. And just seeing her disapproval, which amounts to more coughing and going upstairs, is enough to express everything that you need to express.
Yeah, that's great. And Una O'Connor, who plays that character, is a fantastic, very prolific character actress in classic Hollywood. And she does so much with just those coughs and grunts and harumphs and whatever without ever speaking a word. So yeah, that is fantastic. And I thought it was interesting that moment you mentioned between Belinsky and the pharmacist, where, like you say, it clearly shows that as far as the pharmacist is concerned, Belinsky, the professor, is kind of above him in station. But I wonder, wouldn't a business owner like that and a professor, and we see how poor Belinsky actually is. That's the whole deal with his character, is he constantly has to borrow money. He doesn't have a place to live. Would they not be sort of the same class? Is it because he's a, quote, intellectual that the pharmacist views him that way?
Yeah, I mean, he's poor, but the public doesn't know that, right? He's a leading mind in the world. He's traveling. He's writing books. He is, coming up with ideas on the war that people listen to. Like he's highly esteemed throughout society, and obviously there's a showmanship to it.
Right. I guess it's just from the perspective of Mr. Wilson there being so class conscious, like how he views that. And maybe it's because Belinsky is a guest of the Carmels that sort of confers an extra upper class status to him.
I mean, it just seems like Belinsky is pretty, one, well known throughout the country, and two, is able to ingratiate himself to everybody within 5 minutes of meeting them. So I have no doubt that that's the way that relationship would have taken place.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's true. He is well known. I mean, when we see him early at the home of Hillary Ames, who he convinces to give him money and also let him take a nap while the party is going on.
Been there before, bro.
Yeah. And Peter Lawford's character, the son of the Carmels, and his two friends, including the Honorable Betty Cream, they discover Belinsky sleeping, and Peter Lawford immediately says, "Oh my God, that's Adam Belinsky. I recognize him from his picture in the paper." So he is definitely famous within the certain realm.
No, I wouldn't let stay at my house. Local filmmaker Adam Zelinsky.
Oh, he's a nice guy.
I like him. He's worked for me on multiple crews.
But he doesn't have the Belinsky charm?
No, he's really got to turn on the accent if he wants a room at Manor de Harris, So,
right.
But Josh, you mentioned the Honorable Betty Cream, which is a great way that's a really interesting character too. She must really have a lot of self-confidence, with the way she just shoots these shooters down. I'm like, dude, you're just cop blocking yourself. But in the end, she wasn't. She just was playing the game in a way that drove the boys wild.
Yeah, she is a great character. And I think I like that. I mean, obviously, the movie has this respect for Cluny. And I think that's one of the great things about it. And she keeps her uniqueness. She doesn't have to be toned down or tamed or whatever in order to get a happy ending in a romance. But Betty Cream, who is a very different kind of person and is more to this typical upper class person, she still absolutely has her own specific ideas and standards. And like you said, she's very, very self-confident. And the movie allows her to keep that too and get exactly what she wants. I mean, there's that very funny scene where Belinsky kind of barges into her bedroom late at night and plays. I wonder if is he genuinely surprised when she explains to him that he's actually attracted to her, or is that sort of him playing it up? But either way, she is so casual about this incredibly inappropriate man. And I love the way when she says she's going to scream and you see her screaming just like she's reading her book. She doesn't even look up. She just screams because that's what she says she's going to do.
Dude, he knew what was up, Josh. He's like, if I can't get a Cluny Brown, I'm getting an honorable Bloody Cream. And he probably could have if he kept at it.
Yeah, maybe, but he allows her to hook up with Peter Lawford, which seems to be what they both actually want, and they seem to be well matched to each other.
I mean, honestly, the funniest scene in the movie is after this incident where she screams because Belinsky's in the room and Peter Lawford is now engaged to her, where they fight, where he must defend her honor for that, and it's Belinsky and it's Peter Lawford, and they go into this room, and he's like, "I respect you, as a writer and as a mind, but I have to give you a thrashing." Well, if you must, you must, right? And they just keep agreeing on the rules of engagement and how this fight must take place, and they take off their jackets together, and that was the best scene, the funniest scene in the movie, I thought.
That is a very funny scene. And because, of course, that neither of them actually want to or are probably all that capable of fighting physically. And I don't believe they ever actually do. We cut away before we see anything, and they don't seem to have fought at all.
Yeah. I think, again, it's just like one of these Barry Lyndon style rules of engagement, right? Of that upper crust society.
Right. The obligation and all those things that you describe of taking off their jackets. And, there's Boyer is great at when Belinsky takes off his vest, I think, and he's folding it really, really carefully to kind of keep delaying the possibility of getting into this fight. So yeah, that's good. I mean, Peter Lawford, I think, is known, you mentioned the rat packness of it, and he's not really known for his acting skills, but he's good as this sort of vapid young aristocrat here.
He was good. When I was researching him, I think he was one of the first people ever who was famous for being famous, as they say.
Yeah, I mean, but he did have a long acting career. I mean, in addition to his Rat Pack association, where he was famous sort of just as a celebrity. But I think people never think of his acting career first when his name is mentioned.
I think he's going to be on that Kardashians lawyer show next season on Hulu.
Yeah, they're going to make a AI Peter Lawford to join them or something like that.
He'd probably be happy about that. He loved being famous, it seemed like.
That is possibly true. So,
Dave, what'd you think, Dave?
I thought it was really funny. I don't know. I found it weird. As you guys know, I haven't seen as many older movies like this and like the screwball kind of things. I found this to be so slapsticky. Like maybe I just didn't see the satire and I just thought they were just ridiculous just for the sake of being ridiculous. But regardless, I enjoyed it because it was so funny the whole time. There's a lot of really funny lines, and that scene you just brought up was really, really good one. And a lot of really goofy stuff going on in this thing.
Yeah, it is.
I don't think there's anything wrong with enjoying it on the surface like that. That's, you enjoyed it. It shows it's funny on different layers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and the goofiness is it can be both satirical and silly. I mean, I think that's part of its strength is that you can just be amused by the situations. And then it also has the layer of the satire of British manners. I mean, I think that comes across. Did you not get that, Dave, the way it was making fun of these pompous people?
Oh, I mean, I think I did. I mean, I was reminded of last year's Fuck 'em All, which, so, but yeah, definitely. It's there. To me, it was just like more slapsticky than satire, but that's, it's all in there though, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of goofy moments. I mean, Jason, you mentioned like runners and, like the mother who just coughs and the bit where Belinsky keeps opening the door to the pharmacy to make the pharmacist come out as if there's a customer. And then he's basically ding dong ditching.
Yeah.
This Czech intellectual is ding dong ditching his romantic rival.
That is funny. Hey, Josh, do you have an equivalent of that character of the Wilson, the kind of, I don't want to call him a shopkeeper. Is he an herbologist or a medicine? He's a pharmacist, like you said, right?
He's a pharmacist. Yeah.
Do you have an equivalent? I'm trying to think of someone who's like so anachronistic, even though he fits within the movie. He's so different than everyone else in the movie. I'm trying to think of another example of something like that.
Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, certainly from a romantic comedy standpoint, I mean, Dave, you would, to refer to something that you're familiar with. I mean, he's the Baxter,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
He's the obvious loser who is wrong for the female lead who's marking time until she realizes she needs to be with the male lead. But the very specific way you're talking about, Jason, nothing comes to mind.
Yeah, it's such a big risk that he was doing, and I just really admire how well it came to pass.
Yeah, he's very funny. And I mean, I think in other romantic comedies, sometimes it's good when you can see that the wrong, the character who's going to be left aside actually has his own virtues, and that makes the story more complex. We don't need that here, though. I think it's very, very funny the way Richard Haydn plays it. And it's good how obvious it is that he's wrong for Cluny, and you want her to realize that she needs someone who will celebrate her own quirkiness and her passion for plumbing and the way that she doesn't know her place or want to know her place. And that's clearly Belinsky.
But she doesn't realize that. He kicks her to the curb pretty much.
He does, but I think being kicked to the curb by him shows her the proper, the path that she wants to be on,
I guess. I mean, of course, because that's not an option for her anymore. So it's like, oh, I was dumb for thinking that. But I don't think it was like one of those like great like revelations. It's not like Mary when she knew that she shouldn't be with Brett Favre. Something about Mary, Josh.
Oh, is the football player? Is he in that? I haven't seen that movie in so long.
Yeah. Ted, that's she's like, I couldn't be with him anyway. I don't know if she's a 49ers fan or something else, but I'm just saying, like, there's no active agent in Cluny Brown that makes her be like, no, this is the wrong guy. I got to go get the right guy.
Right. No, that's true. That's true. It's Belinsky who really is the active one there and telling her, get on the train with me. And, he tosses aside her maid's uniform and tells her, I mean, I think the most romantic thing is that he tells her that, if he was rich, he would build her a house with the world's most complicated plumbing. And because he knows what she actually likes and what she actually wants.
Yeah. It's like that Everclear song.
What song is that?
I will buy you a garden where the plumbing is complex.
That's a classic from Everclear.
Oh, yeah.
The greatest band of all time.
Art Alexakis making moves.
Yeah. Good stuff there. So were there any other fun supporting characters that stood out to you in any way?
No, I mean, I think we mentioned, because we have the sexual tension between the two maids, or the maid and the butler. We have Lord and Lady Carmel. I feel like I got pretty much that's the bulk of it for me, and of course our friend the pharmacist and his family.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think we really kind of hit the comedic highlights, and it's just a delightful film. So
Betty. Yeah, we pretty much named all of them, Josh. So,
yeah, all right, fair enough. Yeah, I think so. I'm satisfied. So should we rate this out of
5 unclogged pipes?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Cluny Brown, you have unclogged 3.5 of my pipes, and I thank you for that.
That's good. I love this. I'm going to give it this 4.5 pipes out of 5.
Is this the highest you've ever rated a movie on Awesome Movie Year?
No, because in our 89 season, we talked about like 2 of my favorite movies of all time, Heathers and UHF, which I definitely rated Heathers 5 stars. So,
all right.
And UHF probably came close. So, but no, this is definitely, I mean, it's my favorite movie of 1946, certainly, and which is why I picked it. And I just loved it watching it again. So 4.5 for me. Dave, how many pipes do you give this?
3.5 pipes from me.
All right. Well, all positive though, so that's good.
Oh,
I'm glad to hear it.
3.5's good, man.
Yeah, I 3.5 is a great. There, as we were just talking about the other day, I think Jason, 3.5 is a rating that many of my top 10 movies of many years.
Right. That's the sweet spot.
Yeah,
I'd say once you get to 3.5, you're in business.
Made my top 5 first time watches of June 2026.
Well, of the whole.
Whoa! My number 2 first time watch. Actually, I have 2 related to ours because I watched Lawrence of Arabia when we did David Lean, and I watched, as I said, Trouble in Paradise. They both made my first top 5 watches of June.
Jason really diving in on the classic cinema. I love it. So we'll come back and talk about the legacy of Cluny Brown. Welcome back to Awesome Movie Year. In this episode of our season on the films of 1946, we have been talking about my pick, Cluny Brown. And as I mentioned, this was the final film that Ernst Lubitsch completed. I believe he'd had a heart attack prior to this and was still kind of recovering as he made this movie. But unfortunately, in the midst of working on his next film, That Lady in Ermine, in 1947, after just 8 days of production on that movie, he had another heart attack and he passed away at the age of 55. Otto Preminger came in and completed that film, but Lubitsch is the only credited director. Preminger decided that he wanted it that way as a tribute to Lubitsch, which is a nice thing to do.
Yeah, I love that because we've already talked about the esteem that other major filmmakers have. The Ernst Lubitsch Prize is a German comedy prize established in 1958 by Billy Wilder in an effort to keep the memory of his friend alive.
Yeah, that's lovely. I mean, and I think, when you're talking about classic comedy, Lubitsch is a name that still comes up again and again and again. He won an honorary Oscar in 1946. So just before his death, he was able to be honored and did get 3 nominations for Best Director for The Patriot, The Love Parade, and Heaven Can Wait. Jason, you mentioned Trouble in Paradise, which I remember liking but not loving. So I feel like I should revisit that maybe because you liked it so much. But
I think you should, Josh.
Some other favorites of mine, Ninotchka, Design for Living, which is a very risque and progressive, basically about a throuple in the 1930s.
Like us.
What?
Like us.
Yes, much like us on this podcast. We are just like a Lubitsch movie here. And The Shop Around the Corner with our favorite Jimmy Stewart, a lovely, sweeter romantic comedy. And I also like Bluebeard's Eighth Wife with Claudette Colbert, who's a favorite of mine. So lots of great Lubitsch comedies to check out.
At least 2, Best Picture noms for him also.
Yeah. So we just talked about Jennifer Jones in our Duel in the Sun episode, which was just a few episodes ago. And definitely quite a contrast between these 2 films.
Yeah, this was one where I would say like, oh yeah, Jennifer Jones is a pretty solid leading woman. And the other one I would be like, why is Jennifer Jones a leading woman? I did notice in the credits of this, though, Jennifer Jones appears courtesy of David O. Selznick. So
yeah, he was, in addition to her husband, he was her manager. And basically, I think as we talked about in that episode, later in his career, he really just focused on trying to sort of make her a star, which was not the most successful effort. But she was in demand for a long time, mostly in those more serious roles. I don't know if this is her only comedy, but it was her first comedy.
Marjorie Sharp, the author of the novel, wrote 25 novels, along with a number of other types of stories, including children's stories. Some of you might know her as the mind behind The Rescuers.
Yeah, very different from Cluny Brown, but I haven't seen those movies either in a long time, but I definitely watched them as a kid, the mice having adventures, right?
Yeah, and then they go to Australia to have more of adventures in The Rescuers Down Under.
They do, and I guess there's like a bunch of Rescuers books. I'm sort of surprised Disney hasn't resurrected that one and turned it into a TV series, given how many books there are.
You're saying they should rescue the Rescuers?
I guess they should. I don't mind either way, but how are they leaving IP on the table? Come on.
Yeah, well, especially since it's already been a cartoon, they have to live action the exact same movie version.
Yeah, live action, photorealistic rats or mice or whatever.
It can't look any worse than The Rock looks in the new Moana movie. So.
Oh, yeah. Can't wait to see that.
Of the writers, Hofstein, Josh, we probably mentioned him when he did The Wizard of Oz because he was one of the writers on that. Along with Cole Porter and Kenneth Webb, he composed the musical score to The Gay Divorce, which became the stage musical The Gay Divorcee. And he and Reinhardt were nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay for Laura.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Noir classic. We've talked about, as we said, we talked about Charles Boyer in our episodes on Love Affair and The Earrings of Madame de. And that's that's a good sort of
cross section.
Yeah, exactly. Because we have a Hollywood film and then a French film. And he spent his whole career kind of going back and forth between French and American films from the 1920s through the 1970s. One of the classic actors of that period of time.
Yeah, I was reading about him. What a really sad ending he had there. I don't know if you know about it, but so his son, when he was 21, his son's girlfriend broke up with him, and the son killed himself. And then he and his wife, lived on, obviously, or not obviously, but they did. And then the wife in the 70s died of cancer. And then 2 days later, Boyer killed himself.
Yeah, I mean, that is sad, but I feel like that's not it's something that you read happening just recently. Was it Marjane Satrapi of Persepolis, which we did an episode on years ago, had that same thing happen essentially after her husband died. So, it's a sad thing. Boyer was older than Satrapi was, but still sad.
Running down the tech team, Joseph Lichel, who's the director of photography, won an Academy Award for Laura, and he was nominated 9 times. Worked with Preminger and Billy Wilder a lot. The Apartment, Fortune Cookie, Barefoot in the Park. Editor Dorothy Spencer has 4 Oscar noms. We covered her on Stagecoach. She worked with John Ford a number of times. And the great named music composer Cyril Mockridge, who probably does know Dame Margaret Thackelbush, was nominated for an Academy Award for Guys and Dolls.
The actors, we mentioned Peter Lawford already, of course, known as a member of the Rat Pack. And, for us Vegas people here, one of the stars of Ocean's 11, apparently booted from the Rat Pack by Frank Sinatra in favor of Bing Crosby, who I never think of as a member of the Rat Pack.
Me neither, but he was JFK's brother-in-law, so I wonder if that had something to do with it.
Yeah, apparently there was a whole thing where Sinatra felt snubbed by JFK and blamed Lawford for not having intervened. So really sensitive guys, those Rat Packers, apparently.
Yeah. Lawford, obviously, you can see him in Ocean's 11, among other things. Helen Walker, who played Betty Cream, the honorable one, is in the original Nightmare Alley.
Yeah, she's great as the character that Cate Blanchett played in the remake. And I don't know if you've seen the original, but it's quite good. And she's the sort of more sinister character there. Does a good job of it.
Our man Reginald Owen, who played Sir Henry, played both Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson in different iterations. He was in Mary Poppins, and when no hotel would let the Beatles stay at their establishments, he rented the house to them so they could play the Hollywood Bowl.
That's nice. The Beatles, the 1960s equivalents of Adam Belinsky.
Fair enough.
Anything else you want to mention about the legacy of this film?
Goodbye, Cluny Brown.
Beautiful. So that is Cluny Brown, and that is this episode of Awesome Movie Year. You can check us out online and on social media.
We got a new website. It's Awesome Movie Pod, and man, it has taken over the internet. We also have Awesome Movie Year on Facebook and Instagram. I'm Jason Harris Comedy, or Jay Harris Comedy, and all the things. If you want to know more of my top 5 or any watches that I've been up to, go on Letterboxd and follow me at Go for Jason.
You can find some old things from me at joshbellhateseverything.com. I'm at Josh Bell Hates Everything on Facebook, at Signal Bleed on Blue Sky and on Letterboxd. And if you're on Letterboxd to follow Jason or me, then and you watch any the movies that we talk about on the show, this one or any others, tag your review, Awesome Movie Year. We would love to know what you think. And check out our producer, David Rosen's awesome podcast, Piecing It Together.
Check out Piecing It Together wherever you listen to podcasts, and follow us on social media at Piecing Pod.
Jason, what's in our next episode?
Josh, it's a good thing I've already worked on this French accent for so long, because we're going to A Tale as Old as Time, but we're going to the French version, Jean Cocteau's Beauty and the Beast.
I look forward to your butchering of many French words in that episode. So tune in next time for Beauty and the Beast. And thanks for listening to Awesome Movie Year.
Thank you for listening to Awesome Movie Year. Make sure to follow Awesome Movie Year on Facebook, at Awesome Movie Pod on Twitter, and at Awesome Movie Year on Instagram. And if you like the show, review us and rate us with 5 stars on Apple Podcasts.
An All Points West production, produced by David Rosen in Las Vegas.